All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. I am the VP of Community at OfferZen. As you can see, I am sitting in OfferZen Cape Town with Nyanuel behind me. Sunny day out here, and I'm looking forward to spending a couple minutes with all of you. Today, we're going to be talking about reversing the reverse marketplace. So for those of you that don't know OfferZen, we are a reverse marketplace where companies apply to developers rather than developers apply to job, or at least we were, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit later. So the high-level theme here is that we are responding to market dynamics that are shifting in the industry. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, run you through that. For that part of today's session, we've invited our CTO, Gys, who's going to be running you through the thinking, what we've been seeing in the market, and hopefully share some value and things that you can take as learnings, and talk about our strategic response essentially to that. And then we're going to have Henri, who's our product manager on the marketplace squad, who is, he and his team have been hard at work to deploy something super exciting, which we're going to run you through, which allows us to become, in essence, a dual marketplace, which is for the first time in OfferZen's history, going to be a very interesting dynamic. Our goal is to give software developers the utmost, or the best experience for finding a job, and for companies to have basically the best product to help hire software developers. So we focus specifically on software developers, only English speaking, only this time zone, only full time. So we're pretty niche. We believe we need to stay that niche in order to stay great at what we do. And we're very excited about this new feature, and hopefully we're going to get some feedback from all of you. Before we do that, I just want to run some housekeeping. Essentially, there's some features within Livestorm. Remember that you can see me and the other speakers, but we can't see you. We have two features which you can interact with. The first one is the chat, so you'll see that on the right-hand bar. Just to test it out, if you are so inclined, once you drop who you are, where you're from, the company, kind of some information about yourself, just to say hi, so we know who's here, if you feel like it. And then the other thing is the questions section. So if you have questions for me or for the other people that will be joining this morning, then you can pop those in the questions. I'll make sure that those will get answered with a bit of help from Alex behind the scenes. So that is it from high level. So questions for us in the questions tab, chat, bants, emojis, responses, funny jokes, stuff like that in the chat. This is a webinar format. We have a whole bunch of other stuff which you can get involved. As the VP of Community, I'd love to see you at the next one. We have a bi-weekly meetup as well. It's just a Zoom call where everyone can kind of have conversations. They're not recorded. They're a safe space. You can find those on meetup.com or offerzen.com/events. If you want to join those, we also have webinars called our CTO Playbooks. And there's one a little bit, we'll tell you a little bit later about it. That's on tomorrow. And then we also are doing a big conference at the end of the year. And if you are so inclined and you're interested in getting involved, we're about to open sponsorships for that. So email events@OfferZen or ping me or Alex if you know who they are. Cool. So that's the super high level of this. Just a note that if you do drop off, you can find the link in your inbox and you can come back. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Gys and Henri onto stage. And they're going to run us through what's going to be happening in the market, as well as kind of where we're going. And I think Henri will join a little bit later on. I know, here he comes, on running us through exactly what our response is. And please do feel like you can ask questions. We don't necessarily need to wait to the end. If we have some really good questions, I'll interrupt them as they're going. Cool. And yeah, Gys, over to you, mate.
Cool. Thanks, Steven. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Unfortunately, I can't see your faces, but I will be imagining your faces as I go along. So yeah, like Steven said, I will be just taking all of you through some of the thinking behind how we are responding to the current market. The first part, I'll just talk a bit about the tech market, some observations, how we have seen the expectation of candidates and companies change with regards to our marketplace, and how we believe we're providing value. And then in the second part, Henri will talk about like the specific response, like how we are judging the marketplace, and then just some thinking specifics around the approach that we followed, what we've learned, and what's next. Okay, awesome. So let me dive in. So I'm going to start with just talking a bit about the tech talent market. And when I talk about the tech talent market, I'm specifically referring to the market as a whole, not the OfferZen marketplace. So the tech talent market, you essentially have developers, you've got companies, and what we care about within those two sides are the segment of developers looking for jobs and companies hiring. And those are what we call supply and demand. Supply being developers looking for jobs and demand being companies hiring. Now, for these two sides to interact, there's basically two types of mechanisms that they use. So the one is candidates apply to jobs whenever a company posts a job, or companies reach out to candidates. Now, there's some challenges with both that we've seen, and I'll dive into those in a later bit. Okay, so looking at a couple of years ago, so 2021, 2022, and that goes for like previous years as well, but I'm just picking those two because I think those were the height of like the tech talent marketplace. So what have we seen? So firstly, what we observed was that there was an increase in companies hiring. And I think thinking back to that, to those years, I think everyone sort of could remember sort of just the number of companies looking for devs and the resulting sort of supply shortage that we've seen. So we can look at some of our internal data and see that as looking at companies that are actively hiring since the start of 2017, how that has like grown over the up until like 2022. So what the increase in companies hiring caused was that they started relying more on reaching out to candidates instead of like waiting for candidates to apply to them, because there was in essence a shortage of supply because of the high demand. They had to be more proactive in finding good candidates with high intent. And we can also see that in our data, looking at 2021, 2022, the number of candidates that were contacted per company increased from on average 20 to 25, 27, almost 28. So that is like a massive jump that we've seen in those 2 years. And what sort of the increase in companies hiring and companies being more proactive reaching out caused is that also led to just more candidates looking for jobs. So there's a ever increase in candidates looking for jobs, but that also provided candidates with the opportunity of really trying to find opportunities that match what they're looking for. Okay, so looking at sort of what candidates and companies expected prior to sort of 2023. So given sort of the marketplace, the market, what they were looking for, candidates on the one side, they wanted more control over which companies engage with them because the supply was shortage. They wanted not to be spammed by job opportunities that didn't match what they were looking for. And they also wanted to sort of just increase the ease of finding a job, sort of helping them deal with like all the opportunities that they're presented with. And on the company side, they wanted to get access to high quality curated candidates and specifically with high intent. So even though there's a large pool of software developers out there, knowing who's actively looking, who matches what the company is looking for is very difficult. And that was in essence what we were after when we launched OfferZen. So yeah, just touching on sort of how the OfferZen marketplace works, and I think most of you are aware of this, but we have developers on the one side that are actively looking for jobs, and then companies actively hiring. And the way that we've set up our marketplace to work within the broader market is that we allow companies to reach out to developers. So they are basically enabled to provide the first contact, explaining what the offer is about and what the details of the job is, and send that to the developer in order for them to decide whether they want to pursue the opportunity or not. And if they do, then they can get back to the company and continue on with discussing the opportunity. Okay, so looking at last year and this year, so it ended up being a completely different market to previous years. So firstly, what we noticed is that there was a significant decrease in companies hiring. And I think that was felt throughout the industry. Looking at some data from TrueUp, we can see that globally there was a decrease in open jobs in the tech talent market. TrueUp is a good site for getting some good marketplace data, or tech talent market data. Even though the companies less companies were hiring, we did also notice that there was still an ever increase in candidates looking for jobs. So looking at some of our internal data, we can see that since 2021, the number of candidates looking for jobs have been increasing. And what we're looking at here is that it's the number of candidates that are going live on our marketplace each quarter. Unfortunately, with retrenchments going up, and this is what this graph is showing, a lot of developers were also forced into actively looking for new opportunities, which also contributed to the increase in candidates looking for jobs. Even though they were, and what we've also seen is that when we look at just the number of candidates that a company engage with when making a hire, that ratio has also gone up. And what that basically means is that the ratio of supply and demand has changed as we went through 2023 and 2024. Okay, so looking at what we've seen thus far, number of companies actively hiring has decreased, and a number of developers increased, and that is continuously increasing. So what that dynamic introduced in the market was that developers were applying more to jobs than before. So before, in previous years, they were relying more on companies reaching out to them, and with the new market, we've seen more candidates applying. And we can see that from looking at sort of data from the industry, where you can see the number of applications have increased significantly since 2021 compared to last year. Okay, so what does all of this mean? So candidate and company expectations are still valid from like previous years. So as a reminder, I've spoken quite broadly about supply and demand, but there are specific roles that are still very high in demand. So for example, data engineering roles and data science roles, those are still very high in demand, and the supply isn't that high. So the dynamic still, and the company and candidate expectations still remain the same as they were for previous years. But there are some additional expectations that we need to consider moving forward. So on the candidate side, candidates now want more visibility when applying to jobs into the process. They want to understand where they are with the company they also want to be more proactive. So they don't want to just wait around for companies to reach out to them. They want to proactively contact a company if they believe they'll be a good fit. The expectations for companies also change. So they want to be able to get higher quality inbound applications compared to other channels. Inbound applications has always been lower quality than sort of reach outs from companies, but they want that high quality in order to also just decrease the effort of managing applications, which is also a significant expectation that has come up from companies. Okay, so where does
question?
Yes.
To understand the thing that you're tracking is this increase of volumes for these recruiters responsible for making these hires. That makes more work, not less, because they have to deal with so
yeah, sorry, Stephen, your audio cutting up a bit there, but yeah, so the increase in applications and having to sort of deal with those applications, that's causing more work for talent teams, for internal recruiters, for companies having to manage, having to sort of full positions, full jobs, and yeah, that is a need that we are seeing from companies. Okay, so where does this leave us? So we are constantly trying to sort of understand like how to improve our product, how to improve the OfferZen marketplace, and looking at sort of what's the needs, what's the expectations from companies and candidates, and like what's the way that we can address those needs, and to talk about sort of how we are addressing those needs in the current market. I'm going to hand over to Henri.
Cool, thank you so much. I'm Henri, product manager for the marketplace squad at OfferZen, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about our response to the changes that we've seen in the marketplace, and by introducing Apply, which is our name for making OfferZen a dual-sided marketplace. Now, one thing to mention here, which is a little bit contrary to the title of this webinar, is we're not simply reversing. This is an addition, right? So we're adding the means for candidates to be able to apply. Where up to this point in time, companies have been able to initiate the conversation. Candidates will now be able to do the same thing. Let me take you through the journey. Okay, so give you a little bit of a jumping in straight with like a bit of a screenshot or a wireframe of what it will look like. So for candidates on OfferZen will now be able to view a list of positions or jobs. They can have a look at the job specs that have been made available from company members, and they can then apply to them directly. On the company side, companies will then be able to receive those applications on OfferZen, and they will be able to get a view of what the candidate profile looks like, as well as how well the candidate actually matches the position that they apply to. And the company member can then either accept or decline that application. If they accept the application, it follows the same process that they currently do. They can continue the conversation, they can set up interviews, etc. And if they decline the conversation, well, the candidate is notified. Unfortunately, your application has been unsuccessful. Okay, so making OfferZen a dual-sided marketplace, as I said, the name that we're using internally is Apply. And what we're trying to do is OfferZen wants to make it easy to find and evaluate great candidates, even in this demand-constrained market that we are currently working in. And so the main things that we're using to kind of promote this, the main value props that are available here is that for company members, you will be able to get applications from curated, high-intent matching candidates. So it's the same consistent quality profiles that you've gotten used to on OfferZen, which means the profiles are easy to compare, and you can make an easy decision on whether you want to continue a process with a certain candidate or not. And you get the same level of curation and relevance that you've come used to on OfferZen, where all candidates entering the OfferZen marketplace are curated by our team to make sure that they are in fact hiring, they are in fact in the tech marketplace or in tech, and they are also have high intent for actually finding a job right now. So if I had to put a tagline on it, it would be something like the quality and consistency that you expect from OfferZen with the intent of inbound applications. And it kind of speaks to the main driving force here being the intent from candidates. So in our current marketplace, where companies reach out to candidates, a company member doesn't know upfront whether that candidate is interested in working for your company. Whereas with inbound applications, you already get that intent upfront. You know that this candidate has reached out to you. They have high intent for work to work at your specific company. Okay, so let's have a look at the plan and the hypotheses that we have going into this journey. So how are we going to do this? We start off with a number of hypotheses, and I'm just going to kind of list the most important high-level ones. The three ones that we really care about and that we need to prove is that candidates will apply to roles on OfferZen. This is maybe sounds like an obvious thing, but yes, we need to prove that candidates will apply to roles. We also have an hypothesis that companies will accept those applications coming in from candidates, and some of those applications will turn out and result in placements, which means we generate value for both candidates and companies at that point in time. However, in this journey, we also get hit with the cold start problem. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have read the book about the cold start problem. You should definitely go out and read it. It's an excellent book. But the cold start problem essentially says that in order to kickstart a marketplace, you need both sides. It's a chicken and egg scenario. You cannot start a marketplace by having only candidates and having no companies. And similarly, you cannot start a marketplace by having only companies and no candidates. So for this part of our OfferZen journey, for Apply, we need both available roles on OfferZen, so meaning companies opting in to make their positions on OfferZen visible to candidates. And we also need candidates who are available and keen to apply at the same time. And we need to solve this problem because if you take an example where, let's say we only have 5 positions available, 5 jobs listed on the OfferZen marketplace, and we have, let's say, 1,000 live candidates. What happens if each of those 1,000 candidates all apply to those 5 positions? It means that suddenly those company members are overwhelmed with the number of applications. They might not respond, and so on. You end in a scenario where it's a bad situation for both candidates and companies. Companies are not winning because they're getting too many applications. Candidates aren't winning because they're not getting the responses that they're looking for. And so that's essentially the cold start problem that we need to solve. Okay, so to go about this mission, to generate the value for companies and candidates, we set up a plan. The plan is as follows. We start with the first bit that we released end of last year is position preview. So we learned from user feedback that companies are interested, if companies need to opt in to this new feature, to this new functionality, they would like to see what their position is going to look like to candidates, so that they can make it visible. They don't want to just click on something, make it visible, and then they don't know what it actually looks like. So the position preview was the first part of our journey, shipped towards the end of last year. Then, in order to solve the cold start problem, we also shipped a means to publish your position. So this is the opt-in to say, as a company member, I'm willing to get applications. I'm willing to put this job of mine, make it available to candidates. That was also shipped towards the end of last year. But at that point in time, candidates could not apply yet. Then the next part of the journey, which starts now, is where candidates are actually able to apply to those positions. Company members can accept those applications. Then there's a period of managing those applications, going through interview processes and so on, ending up in placements, which actually generates massive value for both candidates and companies. Okay, so what we've deployed and what we've learned, talk a little bit about that. So first of all, we needed to make sure that companies are interested in this feature. We needed to make sure that companies have intent. And so from our release at the end of last year, where we made it possible for company members to publish their positions or to make them visible. You can see the graph on the right-hand side shows a good increase in the number of published positions since we released at the end of last year towards now. And that's basically our means to solve the cold start problem. On the left-hand side graph, it also shows an interesting or an important consideration that the number of positions that are published also need to be distributed well amongst roles, because we don't want to just have all our positions available to the same candidates. We want a good distribution because we have a good distribution of candidates. So in order to kickstart the marketplace, in order to solve the cold start problem, we needed to have a good distribution of roles. Interesting to note there that most of our published positions were for full stack roles, but you can see back end and front end are also right behind them. The next thing is around candidate intent. And so, but we have a lot of user feedback, direct user feedback, candidates actually asking for this specific feature, candidates looking for the means to take control of their job search and actually apply to positions or show interest in some way. And so some of those you can see candidates mentioning, I want to be able to apply to companies that I want to work for, or I think it would be interesting if I could also engage with companies directly. So these are just a couple of examples, but we have lots of feedback from candidates specifically showing intent that they would be interested in this type of feature. Then some important learnings that we gained from user research. Obviously, before you dive into a big product change like this, you do some user research. You speak to your customers and you try and get as much information on what your customers are looking for. And so some key learnings that we got from company members might not actually publish their positions or make them visible unless they have the control over the salary visibility. And as you know, salary is always a contentious topic, but salaries, company members might not do that. And so we're like, okay, but then we need to cater for that. We need to make it possible for company members to not make their salary visible. Companies are also concerned of receiving irrelevant applications. As you know, outside of OfferZen, inbound applications come in and you can have candidates who are not at all matching to the position that they're applying for. You can have truck drivers, hairdressers, lawyers applying to tech roles, etc. And so members are certainly concerned about that. Members also have certain expectations because inbound applications isn't a completely new thing, right? It's an existing concept out in the market. There are other tools. LinkedIn provides this in some way. There are other ATSs that provide this, etc. And so they have certain expectations for a feature like this. An example of that would be that company members want to add messages when responding. Ideally, they want a template to be able to say, okay, this is the thing. It makes it super easy to respond to these applications. I can look after my brand, etc., and I can respond easily. Some learnings from candidate side is that candidates want salaries upfront. And as you know, OfferZen 100% is in this ballpark. In the current world where companies reach out to candidates, they reach out with a salary upfront, and that's part of our core value prop. We still believe that this is true. In order to solve the cold start problem, it's not mandatory for members to make their salary visible, but we're going to monitor this and learn over time, and we'll respond accordingly. Candidates also want responses to their applications, and this is something that you're missing outside of OfferZen in other direct applications on LinkedIn or wherever. Candidates are often met with, they submit an application and they never hear back. All of us have been candidates at some point in our lives, and when you are a candidate looking for a job, that's one of the most frustrating experiences because you don't hear back, you don't know what's going on. And so candidates really want responses to their application, and that means that we need to tailor our solution to cater for this. Other thing that we learn from candidates is that when applications are declined, candidates really want a reason. And that's really important. Candidates don't want to just hear, okay, you've been declined. They want to know why. And so often, if you just hear that you've been declined, you might want to reach out and ask, but why? I feel like I'm such a good match for this position. Why have you declined me? And so decline reasons are something that we're also looking into. Now, an important thing to note here is the salary conversation, where you can see that the companies and candidates are basically directly contradicting their wants and needs, right? And so as a talent marketplace, we need to weigh up and we need to make trade-offs to as best we can to cater for both of those. So yeah, that's an interesting observation. Okay, so what's next? So this feature was released yesterday. So if you are currently a candidate on OfferZen, you would have received an email today. And if you are a company member using us at the moment, you would have received an email as well. The feature was released yesterday, but we're now going into a period of monitoring and iterative improvement, right? We know that this is getting from 0 to 1. The journey starts now. This feature isn't the perfect solution. We know that there are parts of this feature that we have deliberately because we needed to get it out and we needed to learn first. So some examples of things that we know we can improve on and that are in the pipeline coming in the future is for candidates, we're looking at a full list of positions, so making it possible to apply to any position out there, where at the moment you're just given a short list of positions. We're also looking at improving the matching of the positions for candidates using data science. So there's lots of opportunities there to make to help companies and candidates find one another the better they match. In the company side, we definitely we are interested in improving the application management experience. So the easier we make it for company members to respond, the better responses we'll get, the happier candidates we have, the more happy our companies will also be. So improved application management is certainly on our radar. And that includes things like bulk declines, things like template messages, things like AI generated messages. There's lots of opportunity for improving the application management experience for companies and for candidates too. We also have a public roadmap. We'll share the link and you can go and check it out, which shows sort of what features and functions are upcoming and on our radar or being delivered on next, etc. But we'll also be responding to whatever else we learn that our customers need, right? At the end of the day, we're building this to generate value for our customers. We're not just building this for ourselves. We're building this to generate value. And so what does that mean? How can you get involved? Please give us your feedback. This is the sort of general pitch to get feedback, but we definitely want to hear back from our customers. Tell us what you need, tell us what you want, and we can gather that feedback and we can learn from that and we can improve the functionality going forward. So if you're already an OfferZen customer, speak to your account manager, speak to your talent advisor. You can also reach out to me directly, speak to me. My email address is there, it's just henry@offerzen.com. You can send me an email, find me on LinkedIn or whatever. But yeah, please get involved and give us your feedback. This is step 1 on this journey. And that's it. Thank you so much. Back over to you, Stephen.
All right. Can you hear me now? Sorry, my audio was terrible earlier, I think. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Cool. I don't see any audience questions or chat. I have a question for you, though, Henry. Given that you and your team are working so fervently on this over the last couple of months, what bit of this whole equation are you the most excited about and why?
Certainly accepted applications. We use the term matches inside OfferZen, but the point that we generate value for our customers here is the point when an application gets accepted. It's getting value for both the candidates and the companies at that point in time. And the moment that we start generating matches, that's where we generate value. And that's what I'm really excited about. So that's a pretty simple answer, but yeah, that's definitely where our focus is.
Makes sense. Starting with the customer. Gys, do you have a similar?
Yeah, similar. I think for me, it would be, well, I think firstly, it's very exciting when sort of launching something significantly like new like this. Like you can the whole team is sort of looking at the data as it's coming in, like understanding like the user behaviors, understanding how to improve the experience. And I think similar to what Henri said, helping like specifically candidates where sort of there isn't a lot of demand in this market find opportunities. I think that's very exciting. And yeah, once we start seeing that, I think that will make me personally very happy.
Yeah, I'm personally looking forward to looking at that first candidate that helps we help get a job in this mechanic. We have a question from Nick M. Does Apply include a placement cost the same as the normal / current flow? What is our plan with billing here? How does it apply if you're on pay-as-you-go billing? Obviously, we have two billing models. You can, if those of you that don't know OfferZen, so just quickly some quick context, you can be on an unlimited subscription, which allows you to hire as many developers as you need during the period, or you can do what we call pay-as-you-go. Basically, as you make a successful hire, then you're charged. So, Nick, your question, does it include a placement cost the same as the normal current flow? Gys or Henri, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So at the moment, the way that we've set up Apply, it's a feature that our subscription companies get access to, not our pay-as-you-go companies, and some of the reasoning behind that is that we need to ensure that positions, and as Henri mentioned, positions is basically the sort of the unit of demand that we care about and that companies see as accurate and up to date. And we need companies to really ensure that that quality is at the standard that our candidates expect. And with our subscription companies, that's where we believe we can get sort of the regular platform usage and help keep that sort of position up to date. Henri, I'm not sure if you have anything to
add. Just a tiny bit. So yes, for our subscription companies, therefore, if you're on an unlimited subscription, it means you can make as many hires as you like within the year. And so in that case, if you make a placement via Apply, it would be included in the subscription. So there would be no additional cost on that.
So I suppose a bit of a tough question is, what is the plan to keep it for subscription companies indefinitely, or like when will pay-as-you-go people get it? Do we have an answer for that yet? Like, what's the plan to getting to the answer?
It's an interesting conversation that we've had quite often. We believe that it's definitely best to start off with this being a subscription-only feature. That does not mean that it is definitely off the table for pay-as-you-go companies going forward. Over time, as we learn more, we might decide to change that thinking, and we might decide to open it up to pay-as-you-go companies. If we do that, though, then we would certainly be considering usage limits and so on. We would definitely be able to consider how we want to go about it. But yeah, it's not off the table.
So if I'm a pay-as-you-go company that wants access to this, I can find you, Henri, or email henri@offerzen.com and explain why I want it, and that can maybe inform the roadmap a bit.
Yes, you can. I might just point you to sales as well, but you can let me know, yeah.
Cool, yeah. So if you are a pay-as-you-go company and this is a really interesting feature, and you're not on the subscription thing, we'd also like to hear from you, right? I think we always want to hear from our customers and try and figure out what the right mix of balancing the marketplace is and making sure we're adding value to everybody. Cool. And what else is in the chat? A response from Nick. Any other questions, folks, or any additional comments from you, Henri or Gys?
No, I mean, maybe just a comment from my side. I think, I've been with OfferZen now since the start, for the past 8 years, and I think the thing that we've always valued was sort of that feedback from the community, like being able to sort of ensure that we provide the sort of functionality that creates value for community, whether it's sort of companies looking to hire or candidates looking for jobs. So yeah, I think I didn't give you my email, but happy for to just say it in the chat. But yeah, if anyone is keen to just engage with us afterwards, that will be massively appreciated.
100%. That's why we're spending our time explaining all of this. Hopefully that some of the data at the beginning was useful and folks have learned something and we've added value in some shape or form. And an even bigger hope from us is that this feature is going to add a bunch of value to both candidates and companies, right? We're out there to help great candidates connect with great companies. And if we can help do that in the face of different market dynamics, then that's really what our goal is here. But we're not going to be able to do that unless you all help us and tell us what we're doing dumb and what we need to do going forward. So we really do want your feedback. And yeah, there's Gys's email address. You can ping him if you want. Yeah, and do check out the public roadmap. Other than that, we do have a webinar coming up tomorrow night. So you can check that out at offerzen.com/events. And then also, Alex has just put a bunch of stuff on the screen. So this is the upcoming stuff. If you want to come to these events and you want to find out more information, just click them, boom, 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 and then you can submit the vote. You can't submit none, so you can only skip. So fill that out. And then the other thing is that we have recently launched this report, which is very similar to what we've been talking about the shifting kind of tech landscape. And we do this gigantic survey, and this survey is being distilled and kind of put into this report. And this report should help you navigate hiring, retaining, paying software developers in the current landscape. So we're going to send you to this report at the end, and we'll also mail you the link. Hopefully that's a useful resource. If there's other information you're after, we have all of the State of the Developer Nation survey data. Again, you've got all of our email addresses, just ping us. If you're interested in it, chances are someone else in the community is too, so we can make a quick blog and throw it up. Cool. So that's it, folks. Gys, Henri, thank you so much for sparing your time and joining us and sharing all the hard work that you guys have done. And everybody who joined, thank you very much for coming. Come and see us at some of the next events. We're going to meet up tomorrow. We can see you there. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining, and have an awesome day. Ciao.